I'm one of the members of the most recent Seed Club cohort, SCO4, active contributor of smaller DAOs like SheFi, Logic School. And in a past life, I helped co-write the Gnosis white paper and released some pre-NFT tokens on a decentralized music platform named Ujo Music way back when. Since about 2014, I've been very interested in how you use markets, incentives, tokens to get people to do stuff in organizations and make them a little bit more decentralized, autonomous, hence DAOs. So who's this presentation for? Maybe you are just DAO curious. You've heard of the term. Maybe you're new to Web3 and you want to know a little bit about what to expect when you join a DAO. Or maybe you are a little bit more experienced. You consider yourself a DAO contributor already. Maybe you're a DAO ninja. You practice DAO karate. You take on bounties. You make proposals. You vote. Do all these kinds of things. Fantastic. This will also be for you. And maybe you're one step further and you've created a DAO. You're a DAO operator. You are charged with keeping the DAO alive, and you're looking for new ways to activate and engage and reward your community. Maybe you're a summoner, a gardener, a builder, whatever you fancy yourself as, this presentation will also be for you. So why DAOs? This is a great meme that a good friend Maggie put together for SheFi. I'm a DAO, she's DAO. If you're a millennial, you'll get the joke. But the point is that it seems like every single day there's a new DAO cropping up on Twitter. There's DAOs for creating cultural, buying cultural artifacts. There's DAOs for buying the Constitution, governing decentralized financial protocols, financing people of color, women, LGBTQIA organizations in art, NFTs, so on and so forth. There's even DAOs that exist now to create other DAOs, and it's become the hottest three-letter acronym in the space since NFTs, and maybe you think, like me, this is the future of organization. But maybe if you're also like me, you have a little bit of a reservation about this being the future of human coordination. Maybe you've read The New Frontier in Coordination, which was put together by Gitcoin, and Bankless, which talks a little bit about some of the challenges that DAOs are facing now that they've come into the forefront and the mainstream. Maybe you feel a little bit of the DAO fatigue. Maybe you were promised the organizational kind of enlightenment of no managers, no bosses, that kind of thing, no hierarchy. And slowly but surely, you're starting to see these things creep into your DAO as it's starting to scale. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit and talk a little bit about DAOs and some of the challenges that they face specifically. And this is kind of like the 10,000 foot view that we'll go through first, and we'll zoom in. So what is a DAO? A DAO is just a Web3 community, not just, but it's a Web3 community that gathers together and to solve some common problem or work towards some common goal. They do this in an environment that is characterized by something called information asymmetry. So the TLDR on that is that we live in a world of imperfect information and access to that information. This creates two kinds of problems that DAOs have to figure out how to do, because at their core, what they need to do is figure out how to make decisions collectively. The first problem is adverse selection, which is a DAO contributor might exploit access to information to their benefit at the expense of the greater organization. And the second problem is what we would call moral hazard in the realm of information theory, which is a DAO contributor might make a poor decision because they do not bear the costs of the consequences of that decision. So here's a little bit of kind of like a technical overview of some of the problems for some of the more technical people, but maybe you are a busy person and you like business terms. So here's another way of thinking about some of the problems. DAOs have low barriers to entry, which is really, really awesome, but also really high barriers to participation. So as you know, anyone can kind of join a Discord or a Telegram and start participating, voting, reacting, going GM, that kind of thing. And that's awesome. We want people to come and participate as much as possible, but sometimes the most eager person is not necessarily the most qualified to be making decisions. Not only that, it can be expensive to participate when the cost of transactions on Ethereum specifically are rising as the days go by. Second thing, there are low in real life, kind of like physical meet space, but high URL, virtual coordination costs, given that these are kind of Web3 virtual native communities. So we're mostly online, but that comes with its own challenges. You have to spend a lot more time and effort in coordinating people, usually across multiple time zones, usually across multiple different cultures, and you experience these things like voter fatigue, and it's hard to keep people aligned on what the greater mission is of this decentralized autonomous thing. And last but not least, this is actually kind of like a very specific problem to crypto and Web3 in general. We operate in kind of a high pseudonymity environment that is, as a result, a little bit low trust. This is a good thing because there are new ways for now marginalized groups of people to participate in what's supposed to be the new economy. But this can also create a kind of environment that's very low trust that leads to suboptimal decision making because you might trust somebody that is not worthy if they're a bad actor, and next thing you know, you have some of these kind of like long cons that end up happening where people are high contributors at the beginning and they're really just trying to steal your ether, which happened very recently. Okay, maybe you're not a busy person, maybe you're not super into the business terms. Here's for the community people, maybe you like diagrams and circles and not thinking about things in triangles. So here's a common model of your organization, your DAO. From a high level, you have your larger audience, right, which is kind of like crypto, Twitter, and Web3. Zooming in a little bit more, you have the people that are really members of your kind of like your home. They live inside of your digital home, whether that's Slack or Discord, Telegram. These are the people that go GM, or they react to your posts and they join your town halls, things like that. An even smaller subset of that are the people who are really participants. So they're participating in token voting, maybe they're making proposals, maybe they're taking bounties, so on and so forth. And I would also kind of like include contributors in here. And then at the very base, you have what I would call the core. These are the 5, 10, depending on how big you are, like core group of people that are constantly participating and adding value to your organization. They're notifying people of changes, updates, new things to participate in, so on and so forth. So you as a community leader have a lot of problems in this giant space of trying to decentralize things. And if you like colors, here's something for color, the color-friendly people in the group. Fundamentally, what you're trying to do as a community leader is you're trying to move decisions out of the core group out towards the edges. That's this blue line. And the next thing you want to do, simultaneously, what you're trying to do is bring members off of the edges from your audience, the kind of like people who are less contributing, closer towards that decision-making core, all while you're trying to grow your community outwards. And this is the whole process of progressive decentralization. Very, very difficult. And there's a lot of missteps along the way. You encounter the same problems: information asymmetry, moral hazard, adverse selection. So maybe you like memes and you consider yourself a meme lord and a meme lady, and you like to learn by experience. So here's a perspective: you trying to stay zen while you are trying to decentralize the biggest thing possible. Whether that's the cereal brands, the music industry, art, NFTs, that kind of thing. Let me know if this becomes a little too triggering. I'm just gonna, maybe this is, just yell stop if this becomes. I'll start playing the sounds if you don't say stop. Okay, all right, I'll stop. So we all know the problems. We know them like deeply. We feel this kind of like sense of maybe coming undone, a lot of chaos and freneticness in the DAO space. So that's where I'm going to kind of bring it back to: why do we want to make things sticky? And the question is, can we reduce the cost of coordination as these organizations start to scale and grow? Enter Mochi. Which is basically a DAO coordination game that we've created to help people form teams, set goals, and stick to them for an extended period of time. What we did when we started making this DAO coordination game was we asked ourselves a simple set of a couple questions before we even started to get working. And the first question was, could we start with a coordination protocol that's a little bit more decentralized than what we're used to in the corporate world, that people are already familiar with? We picked Agile and Scrum. If you develop technology in an iterative way, you might be familiar with this already. The second thing that we asked ourselves was, can we make information more transparent? Can we make meetings more asynchronous as organizations scale? That's when we started developing a Discord bot, because most people and communities organize in Discord. We actually started in Slack, so if you're a Slack community, don't consider yourselves left out. And then the third thing that we asked ourselves is, could we use games and tokens to frame kind of the organizational problem and make coordination fun and sticky? And Mochi says, yes, you can absolutely do that. So how does Mochi work? Here's the journey in a nutshell. You and up to 2 to 4 players, your friends, can get together and for an 8-week period, which we call a journey. And what we ask you to do is set one goal. Doesn't matter what it is. It can be something as simple as I'm trying to sit for meditation for 10 minutes a day. It could be something as complex as we're trying to create an NFT zine together. The only thing that we ask is that it's small and measurable. And the only other thing that you need to play Mochi is a small amount of ETH that you stake when you set this goal. And we call this bonding with Mochi. And basically, the only thing else that happens throughout this 8-week period is inside of Discord, our Discord bot will ping you at 10 a.m. every day, and it'll ask you a set of 4 questions. And again, if you are familiar with Scrum, you might be familiar with this already. How are you feeling today? What's something that you did yesterday towards X, Y, Z? What's something you're doing today? And what's something that you learned? Depending on how you answer these questions, something will happen. We have, so here's a little bit of the Dao of Mochi. The yin and yang are basically this rainbow mochi and this shadow mochi. If you respond on time to your check-in request, you earn mochi tokens. Very simple. However, if you don't respond on time or if you don't respond at all, the shadow mochi quick shows up and slashes a little bit of your ETH. If you keep missing, the ETH scales, and if you keep missing, your team starts to lose Ether as well. And this all goes into a slash pool that you can use to fund whatever community projects that you would like to fund. So what have we learned in running this? We basically have done 375 journeys in our own community. We took our community from about 20 highly engaged people to about 100 highly engaged people using this system. We've awarded over 15,000 tokens. We have almost 12,000 daily proof of work check-ins that are a little bit more of an evolved kind of GM. We have slashes. There's about 40 ETH bonded just in our community alone. And we've discovered a couple things about participation. So what are the things that we discovered? One, incentives work. So if you add incentives to a framework that requires kind of human coordination about it, it will increase their ability and willingness and desire to kind of complete the task at hand. So what we found is actually on average 9 times out of 10 our people show up to our community just by playing this game alone. The other thing is everybody eventually misses. Nobody is perfect. So some money eventually trickles back to your slash pool, which again you can use to fund whatever it is that your DAO is about. We like to organize parties. So, and kind of create content. So we've done 2 NFT zines on Zora. We've thrown parties, events in New York City, Lisbon, Prague, soon to be Denver, Osaka, New York, LA, all over the place we do parties. So we use our slash pool basically to fund some of these activities for our members. Not only that, we've also discovered that once ETH gets staked, for whatever reason, it tends to stay there. And you can use that Ether to go create passive earning opportunities for your members using DeFi, yield farming. We're all familiar with these kinds of things. So while you're getting your stuff done, you can also be earning money on the side. So this is another kind of value-added benefit for your members if you use such a system. And that's pretty much kind of how the game runs in our own organization. So in summary, DAOs, I really do believe that DAOs are the future of human coordination, but we definitely have a long way to go. The problems that I presented to you are not going to be solved by one specific application, but what we're trying to tackle is a very small portion of that problem, which is how do you get the members at the edges of your DAO and your organization active, engaged, participating in the mission of whatever your DAO is about. We believe that the way to improve DAOs is to actually reduce the cost of coordination, not add more management, not add more governance. We want to automate as much of it and reduce the amount of intermediation, i.e. middle managers that appear as organizations start to scale. We think that we can do this actually by using a mix of Web 2 and Web 3 technologies, and for us that's takes form of a quiet little Discord companion that we called MochiBot. And kind of at a more fundamental level, what we believe is that small repeatable patterns will lead to higher order beauty and complexity in your organization. So if you can train your DAO collaborators and your DAO contributors to be more reflective, more long-term thinking, and to check in with themselves, we think that this will actually lead to happier, more autonomous people in whatever shape your organization might take in the future. So if you are a DAO contributor, or you're a DAO summoner, or you're a DAO investor, or maybe you're just DAO curious and you want to get involved in trying to find an interesting way to start playing in DAOs, come follow our journey. We're actually opening our Discord to the public. It's been private for the past 2 years. We're opening it to the public today. Follow us on Twitter, Bond with Mochi. And our tagline is basically dream big, start small, and stick together. So hope to see you soon. Take any questions. Thank you.
Yeah, and we got a good 5 minutes or so for questions.
In your study, did you find that people game the system and just give bogus answers?
That is, yeah. So that's a really good question. There are some people that, some days it just gets busy and you don't have a ton of time to kind of do the check-in or whatever. There were problems where some people would actually support or submit kind of like bogey answers, periods, or just one-word answers, that kind of thing. We don't have a solution formed for that yet. The way that we think about solving this problem as we kind of develop the protocol is two-pronged. One is to increase the incentive for producing good check-in reports, and the second is to, again, penalize kind of, this is the Dao, again, the good and the bad, carrot and the stick. So the way that you incentivize better reports, we believe, is actually by making it so that the benefit that you get from that report is greater than the amount of effort that it takes to produce it. How do we do this? So I had a really interesting conversation with somebody recently who's very, very, very into artificial intelligence and was telling me all about GPT-4 and how he used GPT-3 actually for a personal journaling experiment. What he did was over a couple of months, he did some personal journaling daily where GPT-3 would ask him questions and he would respond. And after a couple of months, he found himself in kind of like a rut, a little bit of depressed, and he asked GPT-3, what do I do to get out of this? And it knew it had kind of like, it had developed a memory as a result of fine-tuning the model. And it kind of like repeated all the things that he just kept getting in a loop on. And it helped him break out of that depression and start making progress towards his own self-betterment. So the idea here is if we can create structured data for people working on any kind of goal, whatever it is you're trying to achieve, and create some kind of long-term memory by fine-tuning some of these artificial intelligent models that are becoming more ubiquitous and available. Our hope is that you can actually create some kind of intelligence that's greater than just a bot that's checking in with you and trying to pester you to do something. Hopefully that will add more value to you as somebody who's trying to accomplish anything in your life. The other side of it is you create an audit system, right? We take an optimistic kind of approach to you are doing good check-ins, and maybe that's not the case all the time. You can create some kind of system basically where you have somebody that goes through check-ins. You can have, that can be a group of members in your DAO, depends on how you want to solve that problem. You sample a set of the check-in reports and then you penalize people who are producing bad reports. So there's a little bit of there's a good way, bad way, or nice way and a not so nice way of solving that problem.
Actually, I'm going to go here first. Also, if you are Claire and you are going to talk to us about space and NFTs, please check in over to the right-hand side of the stage.
Hey, how's it going? Great talk.
Hey,
I was wondering if Mochi was considering doing any kind of GitHub integration for developer participation.
It's not currently in our roadmap, but it's something that we've thought about and have definitely seen in the market. If you're familiar with SourceCred, this is something that they take a very explicit kind of stance on. So participation in some communities looks like how many commits you do and pull requests and that kind of thing. It's not something that we've really considered for our community specifically because our community is a little bit different. We're a bit more social. We're into NFTs, that kind of thing. But if your organization is filled with developers and you want to reward people who are contributing to your code base, contributing to the core stack, and that's what really you're about, come work with us. We'll figure out a solution for you, and we'll figure out how to incentivize something that should work for you. Yeah.
Ooh, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, we had one more down here, I think.
Yeah, I can repeat your question.
Have you guys thought about scaling for teams of teams or like larger DAOs?
Sure. So the question was, have we thought about scaling the game for larger teams, teams of teams, or maybe DAOs that have a little bit more of a complex kind of situation? So the answer is yes. But the question also is, what are the limits of doing such a thing? So right now we've intentionally kept it very small, teams of 2 to 4. You need at least one other person because the social dynamics are very important. keeping accountable, we're social beings. You want to perform well for the people that are around you. Now, as small teams kind of grow and become more complex, the cost of coordination also becomes more complex. You have to hire people that are kind of just like arbitraging information around to make sure that everybody's up to date and in sync. So there's some good kind of like, fortune cookie wisdom out there about like what the maximum team size should be. And we're actually interested in kind of exploring expanding teams out to maybe 8, possibly, maybe 10. There's that popular kind of management rule of like 2 pizzas. Right, so it's like if the team is bigger than what 2 pizzas can feed, it's probably too big to try and coordinate it. Maybe trying to split it up. So we're interested in kind of expanding in that direction, and then to the extent that that is successful for whatever organization kind of takes that on, we might start to create some kind of solutions that allow for inter-team communication. And then I think maybe part of your question is like, how do you do this at a DAO level? I don't know, but we'll get there.
Cool. All right. Let's give Gabriel a round of applause.
Thanks very much.